You are listening to the Love Makes a Way podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Hoffman, founder and president of Life Options Network. On this podcast, we will discuss overcoming through Christ and how we as the church can create a culture of life. I look forward to having you with me today. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Love Makes a Way. I am so excited to interview my amazing friend, Beth, and also new co-host. And we're going to talk to you today about business. But Beth Reynolds, who's with us today, she's a passionate lover of Jesus. She and her husband have been blessed with 4 beautiful children, and their days are filled with building family, communities, and businesses. She has homeschooled her children, something that I am always so impressed with since they were babies, and love teaching them to follow Jesus. She and her husband are kingdom entrepreneurs, following the Holy Spirit into new and fun businesses, serving people all over the country and even the world. In her free time, Beth loves gardening and baking, music and fitness, hosting friends, and she is always up to attend a worship night. Hi, Beth.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, I can attest to the fitness. So I have been so amazed because you and your husband have this running club. And I told myself that I'd never run again. I was not a runner. I've been in like 11 car accidents. And I met you and you had this beautiful running club. And I have just started homeschooling, which is why I was really impressed because you've been doing this since they were little babies. My kids are a little bit older as well now. But, we started doing this running club and you guys, they bring in the community with this. It's so beautiful. Families that are maybe also homeschooling, but even public school kids, and they get to have really, I think, what I would consider like a professional experience with a true coach. Because as I understand it, Jesse did some weightlifting training, so he's been a
Yes.
coach. So tell us about that. Start with like the fitness and how that all kind of came about, and how that's helped build community with you guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I met my husband at a Olympic weightlifting competition.
Wow.
I had no idea what it was, but my roommate in college drugged me to it.
Okay.
And I'm so thankful that she did, obviously, but he was hosting this competition. And I was just like so in awe. I was like, what in the world is this? But they're taking barbells with hundreds of pounds
Stop.
and lifting it over their head repeatedly. Like
Wow.
it was incredible. And he was hosting the whole thing. And when I saw him, he was in his element. And I was like, the attraction was real because he
Yeah.
was so confident.
I love it.
When you're in your zone and in your lane, you're like, I am the woman or I am the
Yes.
man. He was that. And
So cool.
it was so fun. So we immediately hit it off and started dating. After I graduated college, we got married 4 years later.
That's
I'm
amazing.
so thankful. But he has always been a coach ever since I met him. He graduated college. Actually, before he graduated college, it was like a year into it. He became the head coach at a school locally. And he was a head weightlifting coach.
So cool.
And so he's just always been that. I've always been the coach's wife, being drugged to all these competitions. And for years and years, it was just weightlifting. He did it in the school setting, which in Florida, where we lived, it's a really big deal. It's a school sport. And it's also a club all over the world. He's coached kids in other countries. It's so much fun. But he laid all of that down many years ago because of business, because it was a season shift in his
Sure.
life. But, God puts different skills into your life for a very big purpose. And that skill of being able to train and challenge and develop people in their mindset and in their abilities has always been there. And when we started having kids, I saw that spark again with him wanting to start coaching, but we just didn't know what it was. We tried the rec sports. We tried putting our kids in soccer, and it was just not the fit for
Sure.
our kids or for my husband. But about this time last year, God just put it on right in front of us, and we basically just said, yes,
So
we
cool.
will do it. Our kids had started doing a couple 5Ks. They were young, maybe around 8 and 5. Not the usual age that kids do 5Ks, but, my husband's always challenged our kids. And so they love doing 5Ks. And then a couple friends started asking, hey, can we join you? Can we start training with you? And so our kids' little buddies started meeting us at the park a couple times a week, and they would just run laps with us, run a couple miles here, a couple miles there. What we did not even expect it to become was 50 plus kids,
Wow.
all the way from 3 to high school age, and their parents are now running.
Myself included.
Yes, with us. 3 days a week. It's incredible. This past week, we ran in 20-degree weather
Yeah,
because we run year round.
they do. It's pretty
It's
amazing.
nuts what these kids are doing, but I am so in love with it because of the community aspect, what you just said.
Absolutely.
Like, not only are we reaching the kids and helping them achieve things that they never even knew was possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they're hitting personal records, and their confidence is growing, and who they are as a person, like their character is growing, and the team is growing. Just the camaraderie and the encouragement from these children. Like, personally, selfishly as a parent, I love having my 4 children involved in a community like this because they're getting influenced by positive coaches, by positive kids, and we're able to really create an environment for them to thrive and to gain life skills.
Yeah. Because
And-
it's more than just the running, right? It's
Yeah.
the actual endurance piece.
Absolutely.
But I know for me, because we just did our first 5K. Well, I just finished my first 5K with the group, which was great. It was a moment. It was emotional for me at the end. I had to kind of stop and be like, wow, like I'm, 40 years old at the time, and I'm able to do this. I think a lot of people, and it might be for somebody else, it might be a different area. It could be whatever, speaking in front of people. It could be, running, whatever. It's a lot of people get stuck. They get stuck in a mindset that they can't do something. And that's what I really loved, because I had always told myself, I will never run. And so, like everything else I told the Lord I would never do, I'm completely doing it. And so,
Girl, that is, yes, that's like a life motto.
It is.
It's like, never tell God what you will
won't.
never do, because that's likely the thing that he's going to tell you to do.
Yes, you will be doing it in just a couple of years.
I mean, that was me. I married a weightlifting coach,
Yeah.
not a track coach,
Right.
not a cross country coach. And now I'm a cross country wife,
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned before that you have done some sort of like, is it like weight loss coaching and stuff you've done? So talk
Yeah.
to us about that a little bit.
Yeah. So our very first business, back when my husband was coaching, he was also teaching, because that's what you had to do in a school setting to actually get paid to coach, right? Coaches
Yes.
make no money.
Sure.
Teachers make little to no money. So he did both. And he was working probably about 80 hours a week
Wow.
at this private school. But just loved it, right? Loved being with the kids, loved coaching. But the reality was, we were getting married and we had no money. And I just looked down the path a little ways and I said, listen, this 80 hours a week pouring into every other kid is not going to work when we have children.
Yeah.
Like, I'm marrying you and I want to see you. And when we have children, I want you to be as big of an influence on them as you are to these kids at the school.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just didn't really know how to do that other than, let's find some plan B income. And so we did get started in a wellness business that we were able to run online. And we did that for about 12 years. We helped thousands of people
That's amazing.
take back their health. And it was so, so fun, because it's not just like, hey, let's help you lose 10 pounds, or let's help you lose, an extra 15 pounds. It's because it's always deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the weight. It's about uncovering what people are going through and coming alongside families and helping support them
Mm-hmm.
so that they can mentally make the changes that they need to do. Because you could just tell someone, hey, eat salad 3 times a day and nothing else. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'll lose weight. But they're not going to stick with that habit until you uncover it a little bit. and help get to the actual mindset of what is causing them to overeat or what is causing them to undereat or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were able to we found out that we could help parents, and what that would actually do is trickle down into their kids. And we were impacting kids that way.
So
It
beautiful.
was so much fun.
I love that because at Life Options Network, we do that all the time in a different way because we help moms in need and we have these free stores and we're working to overcome the poverty mentality
Yeah.
and really that God isn't provider or there's no God or, I'm going to just have to take care of myself and there is no one to come alongside us. Uh, this is really what we do. And when we come after that mindset and it really does alter people's perspectives of their children, that God is going to take care of them, that they are going to be okay, that they're not alone in this process. And truly, I think the whole perspective that you guys bring is that we do need the village. I feel like we have become just so on our phones and in computers. And I know statistically, loneliness is just super massive right now. Isolation is everywhere. And I think that there's also just kind of I don't know, inauthenticness of people online and presenting a certain thing, but I don't know that that's always what's going on behind the scenes.
Right.
You might have these beautiful photos of whatever's going on in your life, but I think that true community is really something that needs to start roaring back in American society
Yes.
to really heal even the family and heal the church in some ways too, and where there's been challenging stuff where people have felt, disconnected or whatever. So I just love what you guys do. I think you do it really well. You're very organized and it's amazing. And so you got into business. So that's one of the things with the moms that we work with is helping them discover new opportunities. And we never we're not like, you have to do these things. It's never the way to go. We talk to them about what they're capable of as a mom. And so you have four little babies and they're getting older now. But in that process of having your children, you did this business. What would you tell like a single mom who might not, she doesn't have a spouse, but she has a drive. She wants to make something of herself in business. What would you say to start with for her?
Yeah, that is such a good question. One lesson that my husband and I have learned, especially over the last 6 years, because we made a hard shift away from that business in 2019. In the last 6 years, we have learned that everything is figure outable.
Yeah.
We,
That's
we
awesome.
kind of joke, we have this, genetic trait that we have an idea and then we automatically believe that we can do it.
That's awesome.
And we just figure it out.
Yeah.
We are in 2025. There's probably a YouTube video for everything.
100%.
And
Yeah.
so I would say find out what you're passionate about, especially in 2025. Like we're in the digital age. You could be passionate about sewing and you could, create a tutorial or something
Hmm.
and market it online on free sites online that we all use every day
Yeah.
and find customers.
Sure.
Like everything is figure outable. You just have to identify what it is that you are passionate and you love to help people with and solve a problem.
What do you say? Because we're talking about mindset a little bit. What do you say to a woman who doesn't believe in herself? And did you ever get into a place where that was a struggle for you, where you were like, I don't know if it was before you met Jesse or I don't know, was there ever a time where you had to get over a hub of, whether it's speaking publicly or it's leading something or selling something how did you overcome that? Or was that even something you dealt with?
Yeah, great question. I was the person that I didn't even want to call into a restaurant to order my own food
Wow.
because I didn't like talking on the phone. I was intimidated by people
Uh-huh.
because I was really insecure.
Sure.
And so the deepest work that I had to do is the self-development and the personal development. And obviously, the best way to get feedback and work on yourself is to have a mentor, someone that you
Sure.
look up to. Maybe there's a woman in your life that is a successful businesswoman and following her.
Mm-hmm.
Podcasts are a great way to find people that are successful and learn from them. Back when I was in my 20s, which is when we started our first business, I would read books. My mentors might be dead, but their books are not.
Absolutely. Yes.
you know?
I love that.
And so that was a really big work of getting in the rhythm and in the habit of listening or reading or talking to people every single day to feed my mind
Yeah.
and to get rid of bad mindsets.
So good. Well, and I think just doing it too. I
Do it scared.
just do it scared. Man, I'll never forget the first time I got up and to speak in front of an audience about Life Options Network. And my hand was shaking because I again was one of those things I told God. I was like, I will be the background girl forever. I love to administrate. I'll do all of that, but I will not get in front of people. And even in college, I would actually get opportunities. And I would like shake the mic, in front of me. So yeah, I think that sometimes we're scared of rejection for failure, but it's actually failure that builds our ability to become anything. So as you step on the failures, you actually become and are more confident in something because you didn't die in the process.
Yes.
You didn't lose your business. You didn't lose, out to something. And even if you did lose something, you learned something,
Yeah.
And so I love that too. I think it was Pastor Jenny Donnelly was talking about one time at a conference we went to where she says, you've got a lot of people you want to talk to and mentor you, but yeah, like go read the books there that are here. Go get them.
Absolutely.
Don't just, wish that you could have a personal conversation because it's just impossible for anybody in leadership to do all of that. And so I love that. I love that perspective. Reading is so powerful. I think we sometimes, our phones are very distracting. Reels are so funny. So sometimes we don't throw on Audible or, sit down and read a book anymore. It's really, it can be hard to do that. But I think that's what's great about Audible, actually, or even just other maybe online platforms where you can do some of that is there's opportunities out there where you can be a mom and be learning and be listening to something while you take care of your kids.
Yeah. And that was a big thing for me is I had to be okay with doing the hard work in front of my kids. Because at first I had the excuse of like, oh, I can't build a business because of my kids,
Right.
right? Because I have to be present with them. But then I flipped it and I said, I have to do business because of my kids.
Yeah.
If, you know, obviously the financial reasons of bringing in income for the family, but even more importantly is showing them, not telling them.
Yeah.
Kids learn by watching, not just by what we say.
Yeah.
And so even right now, I'm in the business of launching a new business around something I'm really passionate about, but my children are able to watch the process and watch the steps that I'm taking and all of the things that I'm learning and applying and their ideas for their future businesses. Like my kids, we have chickens and they have a little chicken business. Like
So
they
cool.
hatch eggs and sell chickens and eggs and all these things. And they also got creative and started making cookies. And so now they have a cookie business. So it's these little entrepreneurial ways that I'm teaching my kids. But if we didn't do it first, they would have never had the idea.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think something that I had to get over myself was to stop being a people pleaser and
Yeah.
being worried about what other people think
Yeah.
about what I'm doing or, where I feel the Lord leading. Because at the end of the day, this is something I told myself regularly when I would come up to speak or when I would have a meeting someone. I have nothing to prove. I only have something to give.
Yeah, that's so good.
And so that really gave me the confidence to deliver what I have to give,
Mm.
whether it's knowledge or a product or a service. I don't have anything to prove to you.
Yeah. And it's okay to hear no.
Yeah.
I I built a real estate company for 6 years, and I was in, Washington, and I had gotten to this place of doing fairly well, with it, and yeah, that was definitely what I kinda came to too, is people look for value, and if you know you have value, you really shouldn't have to stress too much about it, and if you hear a no, next.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds but it's true, like, don't let no stop you from building something that you really believe in, and I think that's just it, you wanna really believe in it.
Yeah.
But you're net right now, you've a gardening, platform that you're doing, so talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit. So it's on Instagram, and you're teaching people to garden.
Yeah.
Just yeah, share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I wrote a book helping beginner gardeners get
So
off the
cool.
ground, starting with vision and building, and then just what you put in the ground and when, which is usually the hardest part,
Yeah,
right? People have no idea when to put seeds in or when to put plantings in. And so just being able to really create thriving gardens that you can harvest from year round. And this all started because, quite honestly, I got frustrated with the produce and just the food at the grocery store.
100%.
Like I said,
That's
my
the word.
background's in health. And I'm
Yeah,
like, this is like getting less and less healthy and it's frustrating.
yeah.
And I figured everything is figure outable.
Mhm.
And so I'm going to invest in the skills and figure out how to create our own garden that we can eat vegetables and fruits. I have herbs for tea and flowers because they make me happy.
She really does. Her house, they have this beautiful garden, and it's overlooking a river, and it is just it's very stunning the way
Thank
you set
you.
it up, and just yeah, it's really fun.
You know what? What I didn't realize though was that this garden would lead me into communion and friendship with God
Amen.
because a lot of people are like this. They say that they feel more spiritual or more connected to God when they're in nature.
Mm,
And have you ever thought about this? Significant things in the Bible happen in the garden. Three of them. First of all, Adam and Eve, of
yeah,
course, in the Garden of Eden
right.
with creation and all of that. Amazing. God is walking and is friends with Adam and Eve in the garden. That's how he designed it. But the second thing, the Garden of Gethsemane. This is where Jesus said, "Your will be done," right before he died on the cross. Significant connection with the Father. And then the garden tomb.
Mm,
It talks about Mary. She thought that Jesus was a gardener
mm.
at the garden tomb, the resurrection, and just the redemption of everything. So I experienced so much revelation and so much connection with God in the garden. It's where I go when I need peace. It's where I go when I am grieving. It's where I go when I need inspiration. And so for me, it's like a holy place.
I love that. I love that too, because how many times did Jesus talk about, the tares and just the I am the vine, you are the branch, like just everything he related, because there is such a connection between our relationship with the Lord and how we grow or don't grow or how we can get stunted. And I just love how it's my favorite thing. One of my favorite things about Jesus is how simple he made things. Just,
Yeah.
he's just talking about the garden and trying, and as you do more of life, you begin to recognize that's so real. And so I love that. We really want a garden. My husband used to garden, but we used to struggle a little bit with it because he'd get really busy and then he couldn't, do the maintenance of the garden. But that is so important too, is that you're able to do that. So this is stuff that you're talking about kind of on your Instagram. What's your Instagram for it?
Called Teach Me to Garden. And the two is the number two.
Yeah, Teach Me number 2 garden. So yeah, you guys check that out. It really is an important piece of, I think, all of us right now with, food. And I know we've got our FK and all these people and upset about everything with the food. And I actually started to notice just some of the cereals
Mhm.
having some I'm like, isn't that something you're supposed to use for cleaning? Like I recognized like in the cereal I had been feeding my kids and I was like, no more cereal. And I think we did like straight granola and raisins for a while.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you don't know how these chemicals are going to impact their health, in their 50s and 60s, And I'm not to say, and by the way, I have so much grace and love for all the moms out there that are doing their best and maybe don't necessarily have time to garden if you're a single mom and you're working a full-time job and you know, whatever, all of these things that we know happen. You know, but if it's possible, even just to plant something small on your back porch at your apartment, like whatever, at least you're getting some fresh something into your kids. And so I think that's a really beautiful thing. And that's why I told my husband, I was like, we need to have Beth over and have
Yes.
her help us, you know, establish a new
Go
garden. So,
design your garden. It's going to be amazing.
yeah, well, we have a pretty decent sized yard for it
Yeah.
out here, which has been a blessing. But yeah, no, it would be really cool because I think we could plant quite a few things.
Yeah.
So,
It'll be fun. You know, you had asked me about building businesses with children,
yeah,
and it is undoubtedly very difficult,
sure.
especially when you are homeschooling, and that means that they are home a
Yes.
lot of the time. But I will say it is so rewarding. You know,
Mm,
some things we just totally cut out because we didn't have time for it. Things like
sure.
TV and cable, and,
Sure.
you know, we just don't have the time for it. And some seasons when my kids were real young, I would have like a mother's helper come over,
Hmm.
and that would help give my husband and I, you know, a couple hours here and there to plug away at the business. But also, a lot of the time that I have to work in my business has to be after bedtime.
There you go.
And that means I may be drinking a caffeinated drink at like 4 p.m.
Yeah.
so that I can make it till 10
Right.
because my kids get up early and, you know, go to bed at 8. But that little bit of time, it's the sacrifices that we make to stop being comfortable for the things that we really, really want to happen.
Well, and that's the thing too, is it's like a short season. So you wrote a book, but it's a short season where you had to make that sacrifice. And I think it's not like weight loss in that with weight loss, you have to do it forever. And yes, in business, there's always discipline. I don't want to take away from that. But once a product's been made, you might have some other new focuses within a business context that you have to focus on. But that product's made, you
Yeah.
know? And so if you have to get through a certain season of doing that, then why not? Like, why
Yeah.
not build something for your family? And I think you do have something to offer, you know, if you're a single mom, if you're even just a guy that's trying to figure it out, whatever your expertise is in, people are looking for that. They're looking for that information and quick information. And I think, yeah, I think it's just such a beautiful thing when you can create something, which is
Yeah.
feels a little bit like gardening, although God gave you the seeds,
Right.
you know, that you're creating something, you're bringing something into the world instead of, you know, taking from it, which, you know, we all should do that too to some extent.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I just love it. I love like the discipline of that and the passion that you and Jesse carry in building business. So, and this isn't your only business. So you have other businesses in the midst of this as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah. My husband is a wealth strategist. So
Okay.
he helps people with retirement accounts
Very
and
cool.
life insurance, things like that,
Yeah.
that just completely, they're like safety nets for
So
families.
important.
And you know, how to transfer generational wealth. Like, he is amazing at what he does. And it's a really good feeling when you 100% believe in what you're doing and the services and solutions that you have for people.
100%.
So he does that. Although he's able to, you know, create his own schedule based on when he schedules his appointments.
Sure.
And so that's why he has the flexibility to do the coaching. But let me tell you something that completely revolutionized our schedule and our businesses. And we started honoring God by taking a Sabbath.
Yeah.
And I'm going to talk about this because whether you're working for someone or you have businesses or you're kind of like in a contracting position, like, it's really easy to work 24/7,
Yes.
especially when you have goals, right? And
Oh,
we
yeah.
live in this hustle culture, and it's like mom boss here and all of these things. I don't believe that hustle is anywhere in the Bible.
No, it's not.
Instead, we started honoring God with our finances and our businesses by taking a break
So
every
good.
week. We have 24 hours where we turn off Well, for us, we turn off social media because that's a big part of our business. We don't schedule any appointments. We don't schedule any trainings. We don't do anything in our businesses. It's a time for us to reconnect with family, reconnect with the Lord, and rest. And
So good.
it's so hard when you are a driven person and you have goals and you are excited and there's all of these things that, God's put on your plate. It's really hard to put them down. But if we don't put them down, they become idols in our lives.
Yeah, 100%.
And so we were scared to begin with because we, were barely making ends meet back then. And it was like, God, we're like doing everything we can in 7 days. And you're asking us to give you a whole day without producing anything. And he said, yeah. And we're like, okay. So we did. And we started, the Sabbath, honoring the Sabbath. And can I just testify with what he did in 6 days? Of course, right? I know you already expected this. Was way beyond what we could do in our own strength with 7
100%.
days. And you ask our kids, Sabbath is hands down their favorite day of the week.
It's amazing. Well, and it does. I had this journey a little bit building a nonprofit too, because there was a year where I just worked, and it didn't feel like it was like when was it Peter in the Bible trying to get fish, and it was like I'm fishing and fishing and fishing, and nothing seemed to be happening, and I finally just felt like, all right, your baby, not mine. This is your nonprofit, Lord. You tell me what to do. And all I heard was rest.
Yes.
And I was like, that makes no sense.
Oh, yeah.
If I pull back, what's going to happen? Which, is an attest to, we doubt sometimes as Christians, right? We doubt sometimes about his desire to get into that intimate detail of our lives. But that was the week, actually just was like that week.
Yeah.
He actually brought me the exact amount of funds we needed as an organization to continue for the following year.
Yeah.
And it was from a total stranger. And I still don't know who it was.
Isn't that amazing?
It's just like, God, you're so cool. Like you do see, you do know. And so I love that, just taking, because it also shows dependency.
Oh, yes.
Like we are so dependent on Jesus. We're not of the worldly hustle of, well, you just should be doing 80 different things. Well, I'm doing those things, but I'm doing it on these 6 days.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah. And I could tell you for a long time about dependency on God, because I used to think that my provider was my husband.
Right.
And God corrected me on that.
Yeah. He's good at that. Yeah.
Yes. And now, even with my husband's business, like it's 100% commission. And every time God brings the clients.
So good.
And when it looks like there's going to be a gap, right? There's a gap in clients, a gap in funds. My husband has learned to be very diligent about tying up the little loose ends that have gone unfinished. Maybe it's a thank you card, or maybe it's like a paperwork that he needs to send off, or an email that he needs to send off to completely like finish and close the last person or the last client's account. And then as soon as he finishes up those little ends, it's been like clockwork. Right. Another one comes around out of the blue. Only God. It's not his amazing marketing ability, although my husband's pretty incredible.
Sure.
It's always God every single time. And so it's taught us so much about reliance on him. And it's, I feel like it's given me so much more peace, because if I'm relying on a man, that's a little scary. But if I am relying on Father God, the one who loves me and knows me and provides for me, and my husband is amazing. I'm not saying that.
Sure.
But, putting that weight on his shoulders, I can trust him.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's such a needed thing for every woman to know that God the Father, even if you had an imperfect father or a father who didn't provide well, there is a God the Father, and he does love you and he does care about you. And if you're a son and you're wondering, if you're a guy and you're listening to this and you're wondering, God, do you care about me? Absolutely. He sees, he knows. And when I think the less we strive for trying to be perfect in it and giving that trust in him. Okay, God, I'm going to build this thing, but God, you're going to do it with me. I just think that's so phenomenal. It's such a beautiful lesson for anybody in any season.
Yeah.
So,
The things that we do today for our businesses, we had no idea what they were like 10 years ago.
wow.
We had no idea that they were an actual business.
I love that. Isn't that so fun?
But God is so fun because he just opens doors and he's like, I think this would be good for you.
Yeah.
But it's our opportunity to say yes or no to God.
Exactly. You
And
can
the
sit there and not do anything, and that's another thing, but you jump into it. Well, friend, it has been so amazing. I'm so excited to have you as a co-host and just to have people have a minute to get to know you and your heart and your passion and all of that. So thank you for doing this with me. And
Absolutely.
yeah, it's going to be so fun. So we're going to have Beth Moore on the show, and we're going to be interviewing more people as well who are amazing, awesome men and women of God, and just so grateful. So thanks you guys for watching Love Makes a Way, and we will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to Love Makes a Way. If you would like to support Life Options Network, you can go to lifeoptionsnetwork.org/donate. I am so glad you were with us today.